Yeah.
Maybe. I mean,
As everyone can tell, this is the Saturday before the storm, and Jeff's
yes,
already prepared. You can see
I
how he's
am.
dressed.
Listen, in fairness to me, I was out walking my dogs like an idiot.
Yeah, not
Here's
10 minutes ago.
Yeah, here's the thing about my dogs too. I will say this: I have a 15-year-old pit bull, right, who's
Mhm.
still in like amazing shape for being 15 years old. If you don't walk him, he loses his damn mind. Like he needs to be walked. It is the deal.
He is a bulldog. I
He
mean,
is,
he is a bulldog, and
and he needs it. And so it's like with the fact that we probably won't be able to walk tomorrow
right.
on the table.
Well, he could.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah, that's really a fair
Yeah,
point. That's a fair
yeah.
point.
It's not. That's not because he doesn't want to.
And let me also say this: I guarantee my wife will want to walk tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
She
But
will
hey,
be
that's when
layered.
you hand her the leash and say,
That's right.
"Sweetheart, have a
Say,
good time."
I'll be watching football. Thanks anyway. So some topics to get to here is we're
Yeah,
in the middle of winter.
it's
Some
been interesting
interesting.
the last week or two.
It
Yeah.
really has been, and some of it Astros directly related, and some of it not Astros directly related. I'll hit a couple of things just up front that are sort of specific to the Astros. Read yesterday, Spencer Aggetti now fully healthy and throwing, and is not going to pitch in the
Yes.
WBC,
Probably a
which
good thing.
got to be good.
The problem,
Yeah,
listen, I like the
me
WBC.
too.
I like the idea of it since you can't be in the Olympics, and basically, so it's
Right.
Major League Baseball's Olympics.
Yes.
But the problem with it is, and the problem with even playing in the Summer Olympics is, you can't take time off, and there
No.
is no good time. There's no good time to have this tournament. Definitely can't take a break like hockey does in the middle of the season.
Right.
You can't do it after the end of the postseason because heck, you're going to be playing in December, and
Right.
everybody's been playing for especially the playoff teams have been playing for 7.5 months, 8
Exactly.
months. So really, the only time you can do it is prior to spring training, which that's not optimal either because
Mm-mm.
guys haven't been ramped up. They have to ramp up early. A lot of times they ramp up quickly, and we'll keep our fingers crossed. But a lot of times we see IL stints
You're
in the
right.
regular season, and you can't put your finger on it definitively, but WBC may have something to do with it. But I love the concept. I love the
Me
idea.
too.
There's just no real good time to have this tournament.
Yeah, it's a very frustrating situation too because it really has some great storylines.
Oh, yeah, it does.
It's got some really and honestly some really good baseball. If you've ever
Mhm.
watched it, I mean, really some outstanding baseball. So it's a shame, but I'm glad Spencer Aggetti's not pitching in it. Like I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I sort of feel like the worry I have is more with pitchers than hitters.
Yes,
Just
absolutely.
because of the
Well,
use
except
on their arm.
really the only downfall for the hitters is repetition.
Yeah.
You remember Alex Bregman went a few years ago, and I think it was Jim Leland was the manager for the USA team, and you said, "Oh no, he'll get his at bats," and he went into the regular season and had literally like just a handful of at bats,
Right.
and it was part of Bregman building the stigma of getting off to a slow start. That was
Right.
one of those seasons. Now, there were other seasons that he had all the at bats he wanted in spring training and still got off to a slow start. So, that's really the only downfall for the position players.
Mhm.
Yeah, the problem is always with the pitching.
Yeah, agreed. Couple other little notes here about the Astros. First of all, we didn't even talk about this before we came on, but Ryan Presley retired.
Yeah,
Congrats.
13
to
years.
13 years. Very excellent reliever for the Astros for a number of seasons.
Historic, the 1 year,
the 1 year was
the
so
1 year
good.
historic postseason.
Yeah,
Historic.
just tremendous.
What, it didn't give up a run in like 22 innings?
I think it was 22 innings. I
Yeah.
think you're right. Yeah, just
Crazy.
incredible. And then we've got the Astros North, aka the Chicago Cubs, which is where both Alex Bregman and our friend Chas McCormick
Yeah.
have agreed to sign. So Bregman, that's a huge deal for them. I mean, the Red Sox had to suddenly pivot and go with Bichette. I always want to say
that was the Mets.
I mean the Mets. Yeah, sorry. The Mets had to pivot, right,
Yeah.
and go with them. And
Which is crazy. The crazy thing about that, and there's only a few people talking about this, would you rather have Bo Bichette or would you rather have Pete Alonso? You
Right.
would much rather have Pete Alonso, but they
Yes,
let Pete go early in the offseason
they
with the
did.
idea that, with it was Bregman or Tucker, or they were going to get somebody.
Right.
And then, now listen, there's no problem with Bo Bichette playing
He's a
in New
very good
York.
hitter.
He'll be fine. There's going to be some question about his defense at third base because
Yes.
he hasn't really played third
I
base,
think
and
he's
that's where
only
he's going to
played
play.
2 games at
Right.
third or something like that. Crazy.
Um, but I mean, if everything was on equal
Mhm.
terms, which, well, nothing really is on equal
Nothing
terms, you
is.
would definitely would have had the power of Pete
Alonso,
Alonso
yeah.
over Bo Bichette. But they had to make that pivot. They had to make this decision quickly, and yeah, they brought in Bo. So congratulations there after missing out on Tucker or Bellinger or whoever
Right.
else that was on their list.
Hey, and listen, I always the showing my age, I kept wanting to call him Dante.
I've done
Sh
that a couple
It's
times,
like showing my
and
age.
the problem is once you say it once,
It's
then it just
trouble.
wants to fall out.
Yeah, the thing too is my buddy Frank and I who go to games,
And
we're
you'll have
pretty
to
freak.
excuse my sniffles. I'm
Oh, yeah, a
fighting the
little
same
cold.
thing that the whole rest of the country is
That's
fighting.
just how it is. I had it, so it's like but my buddy Frank and I, when we go to the at games when Bo Bichette is playing, we refer to him as Bobichette. So
There you
we do a
go.
little
Yeah.
Italian,
Yeah.
so we yell it quite loudly.
Yeah.
While we're talking about, signings, we should talk about Kyle Tucker to the Dodgers. I mean,
Sure.
this is so
What,
okay.
what before we get to Tuck,
Yeah, yeah.
let's kept one more thing on
Yeah.
Alex Bregman. I think this is worth mentioning. Where in the day and age that everybody, I mean, almost any big name free agent is having opt outs.
Oh, yeah.
Alex actually said, "No, I don't want any opt outs. I want a no trade clause. I want to be in Chicago,
Yeah.
and I want you to know I want to be in Chicago. So don't give me any opt outs. I don't even want the option."
That's
I
very
thought
Alex
that was
Bregman.
it. Really is. It
It's a
really is, and it sends a great message to the fan base that
yeah.
you know. And the leadership qualities and everything we know, Alex, and that's a big signing for
For
the
the Cubs.
Cubs
Oh,
because there
yeah.
has been questions about the on-field leadership.
Mhm.
As great as Kyle Tucker is a very quiet guy.
He
He is
is.
not going to be, one of those verbal leaders, which we know Alex will be.
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, look, it's a very Bregman thing to do because Bregman is a pretty straight shooter. Like, I don't think there
Yeah,
was there was no reason to think that he was going to come back to the Astros because
no.
he was pretty honest about it. And I think
Well, and
is
you
understandable.
knew that Jim Crane wasn't gonna put it forth
Yeah,
the long term deal to get him.
exactly. And
Because
so,
that's just not what Jim does.
boy, but the Red Sox now, that's a totally different deal. Now they're now they are like understocked with infielders, overstocked with
Right.
outfielders, which by the way brings up the fact that there's been some trade rumors with the Astros potentially moving Isaac Paredes to the Red Sox
Yes.
for an outfielder.
Mhm.
Jaron Duran's been brought up, but there have been
Right.
some other ones as well.
But,
Wilbur
just to let
Abreu,
people know, as
lefty
well as I
outfielders.
do,
Hmm.
the ones that are talked about aren't usually ones that come to
Yeah,
fruition.
that's true.
And as great as it is and as much information as we have, and sometimes it does happen that
Hmm.
way, but we don't usually get, the
No,
ones that are up front that are headlines, those usually kind of fall through.
well, look, they definitely need a lefty outfielder, and the Red Sox have a plethora of them, so it does make sense.
Sure.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Tucker. Let
Now
me
let's
throw
get to
my
Tuck.
2 cents in because I want to just I we talked about this a minute before we came on.
Mhm.
I do not have a problem with him signing with the Dodgers. I do not have a problem with him signing a huge deal with the Dodgers. I really don't. It's baseball. Those are the
Mhm.
rules we have set out. The Dodgers are I don't care for the structure of the way Major League Baseball implements its finances. Um, but I don't really put any of that on the players at all. These are
Yeah.
billionaire owners who have plenty of money. They
Right.
hide their books. They don't tell anybody how much money they're making.
Right.
So I have no sympathy for owners who complain about these
Creative
big.
accounting.
That's
Yes.
right. So I have no sympathy for owners who create these
Sure.
huge teams with $400 million payrolls. The thing that hurts me about it is being a fan of the sport and of sports in general. I know how badly it damages other fans, right? Because fans in other parts of the
Yeah.
country who don't have teams who can afford that or have teams who won't afford that.
That's better.
Right.
Yeah.
They are stuck. Now, again, it is LA versus Kansas City, for example, and
Sure.
there are some
Sure.
demographic differences. But the one thing I will say about it from just a competitive standpoint is, good lord. I mean, really, Los Angeles, who else do you need? Can you bring back, like, can you, like, resurrect Babe Ruth and bring him back and put him on the field? Do you have enough money for that? I mean, good lord. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
listen, it's an interesting deal. It's not really the deal that Kyle wanted, even though Kyle did
Mm-mm.
have a long-term deal on the table, a
Yeah, with
10-year
the
deal
Blue Jays,
with the
right?
Blue Jays, I think, and
Could
for
have
a
played the Springer
substantial
again.
amount of money.
Mhm.
He decided to take the short-term deal with opt-outs,
The new
and set
normal.
records. Yeah, and set records with the AAV. It's not worth 60 because, like you said, there's some
Mhm.
creative accounting.
It's
Since
deferred
there is
money.
deferrals,
Right.
I mean, maybe that's something. And the crazy thing is, we have a CBA coming up, collective bargaining agreement
Yep.
coming up at the end of this next season,
Mhm.
and that's going to be one of the hot topics.
Oh,
Is
for
a
sure.
salary cap that the owners want the players to restrict how much the owners can pay,
Right.
can bring on as far as their payroll is concerned, which is ridiculous. The players, as far as I'm concerned, I've been through this. I went through this multiple times in my career,
Mhm.
and was involved quite a bit multiple times in my career.
Mhm.
That it's not going to float.
Yeah.
The players is not going to allow a hard salary cap.
Nope.
Is there going to be some kind of can there be creativeness? That's exactly what needs to happen. But
Mhm.
how can someone spending money go to someone they're spending the money on and turn around and tell them, "Hey, I need you to limit how much I can spend on you"? That just makes no sense
No, it's insane.
whatsoever.
It's pure
So the
insanity.
Tuck now my I told you I have a little bit different take on this Tucker deal, and I came up with this right off the bat. You got to remember my history.
Mhm.
I was an evil. I played for the one of the evil
You
empires,
sure did.
the last baseball dynasty. I think this is a good deal. Okay. And if you're a team that is battling the Dodgers, yeah, you still have to put up with Tucker,
Mhm.
but they still have question marks in their rotation.
Mhm.
They still have, I think, they didn't have anybody throw over like 120 innings last year.
Right. Well, yeah, they had a
There's
lot of injuries.
a lot of injuries, and that's kind of how they do it. They love to have kind of the revolving door. Puts a lot of pressure on your bullpen.
Mhm.
Okay. And then you have injuries. The Astros over the last couple of years has had more than their fair share of injuries.
Absolutely.
So this is all stuff, you can sign all you want, and on paper it can look like a juggernaut. Go ahead and put their name on the trophy. But look at how it went last year. The Toronto Blue Jays outplayed them in the World Series. They just
They
didn't get to 4 wins first.
Right.
You had a guy that hadn't hit a home run in 6 weeks and didn't hit a home run off a right-handed hitter, just happened to close his eyes
Right.
and run into a hanging slider
Right.
in the top of the ninth inning to tie the ball game in Game 7. So, you look at it and you go, "Oh my gosh, here we go again." Well, in no way was that just a runaway and hide
No, for sure.
team last year. So just because they sign him doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win.
Right.
Um, the reason why I think this was a good deal was because, like I
Mhm.
said, if you're an opponent of the Dodgers, spend as much money as you freaking want. Spend it all. I don't care. Spend it.
Mhm.
We're still gonna do everything we can to beat you.
Mhm.
But I think Major League Baseball is better off when you have a villain. I mean, a villain that everyone hates. And like I said, I
Mhm.
I was on that team,
Yeah. Well, the
with the
Astros were
late.
one of those teams, just not for money.
No doubt, no doubt, but still a villain.
Yeah.
Did when the Astros came into town, did attendance go up? Yes.
Mhm.
When I was with the Yankees in the late '90s and early 2000s, um, we didn't mind it at all. We played in front of sellout crowds all the time. And even if they
Yeah.
were sellout rooting for us or sellout rooting against us, it
Right.
really doesn't matter. So I think baseball is better when there is a villain that everyone can root against.
Well, they are the Death Star now. I mean, that's that I think, look, my whole opinion about salary caps and everything else really boils down to one thing. I don't think you can ever have a fair system for the players. I don't think you can ever have a fair system for the
Yeah.
fans unless we know exactly how much owners are making. There's just no way to know.
And that's never going to happen.
I know,
They're never going to be
they
a
do in other
real number.
sports. They do in
Yes.
other sports. That's
But
the thing.
baseball is never going to do it.
I know, and
And
it's incredibly frustrating because
and as far as other teams, now no, everybody cannot do what the Dodgers have done
Right.
as far as the big picture. But
Yeah.
can every team go out and put forth a contract like Kyle Tucker? Sure.
Yeah.
Now, business-wise, they might not be able to do it, but that doesn't mean
Right.
financially they can't do it. They just
Yeah.
decide not to do it.
It comes down to ultimately, if you're gonna, there's no way there's gonna be a salary cap.
Yeah.
I think there will definitely be discussions of some kind of
There's going to
revenue
be more
sharing
revenue
agreement.
sharing.
Yeah.
There's going to be higher penalties. Because listen, the Dodgers are already in 100%,
I
right?
know.
I think for
No,
every
over,
dollar,
yeah, it's
over
crazy.
100%.
Yeah, it's over
Yeah,
100%
for
now. It's crazy.
every dollar they spend, they have to spend $1.50.
I think
whatever
I
it is.
read
Yeah.
that the penalty that they will pay for Kyle Tucker's salary is higher than 8 payrolls in all of baseball. Like
And
that's the
there
penalty.
lies the problem with the salary cap, because if you ever, even in theoretically, because I still
Mhm.
agree there's never going to be a salary cap,
Mhm.
but if you had to have a salary cap, you have to have a salary minimum. You
You
can't
four,
let,
exactly.
he's going to make on average $60 million a year. And I think, who was it? One of the teams had a payroll last year of 68.
Yeah, that's right. That's
You
right. I
know?
think it was Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh,
Maybe?
yes, it was.
Or no, Miami.
That's who
Miami. It was
yeah.
Miami.
So
yeah, they have the lowest payroll in baseball.
there lies the other side of that. So you
Right.
can't
You have to have a
have a
floor.
ceiling without a floor.
No, I agree with that. I honestly think a salary
And to tell you the
floor.
truth, Jeff, I have a problem with that also. How can I tell you how much you have to spend?
Right. It is weird.
One of the things that when we were going through these negotiations,
Mhm.
years ago, was that, we had this, generic conversation
Mhm.
about this situation. But how can I tell you how much you're going to spend? And then, because a lot of times the teams that are making the most money are
Mhm.
those smaller market teams that are getting the revenue from the revenue sharing.
Right. And
Okay.
and
Now
cutting back
we
on how
said,
much
well,
they
okay,
spend.
you know what? If you're going to if you're going to get $50 million in revenue sharing, that needs to be put back into the team. Oh, wait. You can't tell us how to spend our money.
Right.
Okay. So you can start seeing
Yeah.
the issues you have in these situations, just simply because, everybody wants their cake and eat it too.
Well, I think also it's, with all due respect to sports fans in general,
Mhm.
it is low hanging fruit to complain about how much money certain teams are
Well,
spending.
it's too easy. It's too
yeah.
easy.
It's
And
this stuff is
it's always been the greedy ball players. And listen, that's you got to put up with that. That's just
and not
part of
just the baseball players, but just the idea that one team gets to spend boatloads and another team doesn't.
Yeah.
Listen, baseball, like life, as my mom used to tell me when I was a kid, is not fair.
Right.
And it is a situation. Now, admittedly, I would like to see at least a little more parity, in the sense that when you look back at the last 20 years, especially since the just incredible ramp up in payroll, if you look back, the final 4 teams playing,
Yeah.
there's almost never a team outside the top 12 in payroll that's in the final 4. We talk about the World Series all the time and world champions. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's a unique thing. But the final 4 is kind of, that's where you think, okay, if you're a really good team, you should make it there. But a lot of teams just can't.
Mhm.
So to me, that I don't like. But there's no real easy solution for that. I think everybody wants to say, "I'll just put a salary cap." Salary cap's not necessarily going to fix that.
No.
It
No.
doesn't fix things. It doesn't. Because
Because
ultimately, your
because
team has
listen,
to be good at doing their job.
and the team also has to want
Yeah.
to be better.
Right.
They have to want, and what does that mean? That means there's going to be some times that maybe you do only break even, or
Right.
but there's got to be that desire. And a team like the Dodgers, I played for George Steinbrenner. One of the he was a great owner for the players, because
Sure.
if there was a need on the team, dude was going to go get it.
Right.
reg-
Well,
regardless of what the
yeah.
salary was.
I mean,
And
that's the
that's
part
not
of the
what you
deal.
have. It's
No.
not, so you have owners out there and teams out there and organizations that it's win at all costs. The vast majority of them are win at a cost. We have a
Right.
budget and we're going to stick to that budget. And that's fine if that's going to
Totally.
be your approach. That's going to be your business approach.
Mhm.
But a lot of times that business approach is not going to lead to a championship season.
Right. And I also think that it's important to note that part of the problem is it, goes beyond the players. Part of it is, honestly, let's be fair, a lot of teams just do not hire good, scouting
That's
staffs. They
that,
don't hire good general managers.
So we've gone down a rabbit hole here that there are
Mhm.
many different issues here
Yeah,
that when you have bad personnel or you make bad decisions or you
that's it.
can't you can't develop your players,
Mhm.
then it doesn't matter how much you have.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work. So it's not as cut and dry as just
No.
X's and O's, credits and debits,
Right.
you know,
Well,
uh, on a balance sheet.
Tampa Bay's always in the bottom 10 in payroll, yet they're always
Always.
competitive because
Yeah,
they are good at developing from within.
that's
And
right.
they're smart about making decisions about getting low risk, high reward players.
Mhm.
Um, and so it can be done, certainly.
Yeah.
It's just that I do think we do need to eliminate, like, personally, I think we need to eliminate the teams that are spending like 50, $60 million a year. I mean, you're never going to compete in at all. There's just zero
And
chance.
why is that the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red
It's
Sox,
not
even
their
the Astros?
fault.
Why is it their fault?
Right, exactly. No, 100%. I mean, it
Or the
is,
players in that
it's
sense, or the
definitely.
players.
Listen, I know people love to complain about players. I don't get it. Like, I'm one of these people who I believe very strongly that if you are great at something, right? If you're great, I don't care what it is. If you're
Yeah.
great at something, you should absolutely exploit that to make as much money as you can. If you're really that good, you think a computer programmer that's getting recruited by a big, like by Google or something, if
Right.
Apple calls them and offers them 10 times more money, they're going to be like, "Oh no, I'm very loyal to Google." Like, hell no, I wouldn't either. It's like, are you
Right.
crazy? Like, it's no different.
Baseball wise, I remember, when Pujols was a free agent from
Yeah.
St. Louis, and St. Louis made a BS offer. It was like a
Yeah.
3-year deal.
I
I
remember
mean, the
that.
money was okay. And then he took the 10-year deal from the Angels. They're like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, look, he's just money hungry.
Yeah. Aren't
Show
we
me one
all?
person that wouldn't
It's
have done
come
that. I
on,
mean, the
man.
reason the reason St. Louis made the offer was to save face. That's what it was. That
It's
they
just
had there was they would have been, shocked. Somebody might have had a heart attack if Pujols would have actually taken that deal. So,
yeah.
but that,
That
like I said, that's the nature of the business of being a
Yep.
baseball player. You're going to be the bad guy, and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense, but
I will
anyway.
say this. I will say this going into this year, and I haven't seen the numbers in the last
Mhm.
couple years, but the trend has been going on for a long time. The piece of the pie that the players actually get as far as revenues in Major League
Yeah.
Baseball has been going down. The
Yeah, I
last
do know.
numbers I heard, this is, maybe back when I was playing, it
Mhm.
was basically about 25% of the revenue.
It's higher than that
25%.
now, but it's not anywhere
Well,
close to where it should
I
be.
know it went down to 19
It did.
just a couple years ago. Now maybe it's gone back up because there have been a
It's
couple
still in the 20s.
massive yeah, but it's not like the
That's
players
crazy,
have
though.
gone from 25% to 40%.
And by the way, that's bonkers when you consider the NBA, the players get 51%
There
of the
you go.
revenue. I mean,
There you go.
like, that is
Yeah,
insane.
where is the other, we'll say 75% going? It's going
Right.
into the owner's pocket.
Exactly.
Not just the Dodgers pocket, not just the
No.
Yankees pocket, but it's going into Kansas City, Detroit. It's going into, Pittsburgh and
Yes.
Miami. Those are the pockets it's going into.
And also, one point that I don't think many people realize, working for a sports organization, if you're not an athlete, is one of the worst paying jobs you can possibly get. It's
They're all
horrible.
bottom feeders. Yeah, they're all right out of college.
I will never forget, like, this was probably 20 years ago, and I know it hasn't got much better because I know some people who do these jobs, but guy I knew was doing, he was actually doing some work for, one of the teams, so I won't talk about, and he was doing videography and writing and stuff like that. It was sort of
Yeah.
on the that side. And he had been working there 3 years. It wasn't fresh out of college. He was like, late 20s, maybe
Yeah.
close to 30, and he was being paid, and this was for full-time all year. It's not like he got any time off in the off season. He was
Yeah.
full-time working, and he was being paid $24,000 a year. Like
Incredible.
24. And he's got guys that are making 24,000,000 that are
Right.
playing. Now, I get it. His job isn't as important, but
Here's
come
one for
on.
you. Here's one for you. So early in my career, I'm playing with Atlanta.
Mhm.
Okay. And they gave me the option. Did I want to get paid for 6 months or did I want to get paid for 9 months? Okay. And it's just so what the way the pay scale works
I
is
feel like gotcha
you get
coming.
paid, yeah, you get paid 12 paychecks. You get paid every
Mhm.
2 weeks for 6 months. That's
Right.
your paycheck. Well, I said, you know what? It might not be bad. Let me extend that to 9. And you would say, okay, well, now we just do the simple math and instead of
Mhm.
dividing it by 12, we divide it by 18.
Right.
Um, the first year they did it, they screwed it up. And they gave me like 2 extra paychecks that were on the 6-month scale. And so, my agent's doing all this and he got and they call him saying, "Oh, well, he needs to give that money back." And he goes, "He's not giving it back.
Are you
Take it out of
crazy?
his checks from next year. We'll do a
Right.
pay scale and we'll take
Uh-huh.
it." Okay,
Right.
fine. Next year we did the same thing. The same error was made. The same now they ended up getting their money back and everything, but it was like and why was this happening? Was because the people that were actually doing the accounting were the ink hadn't dried on their sheepskin
That's
and
right.
their degree because yeah, they're getting paid just, pennies on the dollar what they should be getting
Yeah.
paid
And people
and mistakes are made.
well, they take these jobs too because it looks good on a resume,
Of course it
allegedly,
does.
right?
Yeah.
But, like, it's
Well, at
just
least there's name recognition.
yeah, well, I mean, it's crazy, like and I'm sure it's a fun job at times. I'm sure there's some cool you get to hang out with
Oh,
athletes or
and
whatever, but
listen, when
come
you're
on.
young, let's say you're young
If
and
you're
you're
young, yes.
inexperienced and you're not married and you're
Right.
going to the bar. Yeah, who do you play who do you work with? What's your job? Oh yeah, I work
Exactly.
for the Houston Astros. Oh, that's not, so
Yeah.
there's some stigma, some
I've known a
yeah,
bunch of people that worked, past tense
right.
for all those organizations who I mean, it's just, All right. Let's move on. I want to hit one more thing before we go, and that
Yeah.
is Carlos Beltran,
Yes.
Hall of Famer, which I think is deserved. I definitely think he has the resume for being in the Hall of Fame, but it does bring up an interesting point that a number of people have mentioned, and that is that Carlos Beltran was part of the cheating scandal of the Astros of
Right.
2017, and the question has become, okay, there are guys who won't get voted in for PEDs, but are we letting that slide? And apparently, for Carlos Beltran, we are.
Yeah.
And will that conversation then come up later for guys like Jose Altuve when it's his turn? And will that sort of grease the path for him to get into the Hall of Fame a little bit easier?
Yeah. So with Jose, I don't think it's going to be an issue.
I don't think so either.
The numbers are just staggering,
He's a
and he's
better player
still
than
adding
Beltran
to.
for sure.
Yeah. Well, so I don't think it's going to be a problem. Will there be a question or two? And
Mhm.
and the research has already been done. I don't remember the guy's name that went and
Yeah,
documented every single solitary pitch,
right,
and found out Jose didn't use it. Jose didn't want to use it. So
right.
what Jose was guilty of was the same thing that AJ Hinch was guilty of, which is not
Complicit.
stopping it.
Yeah, being
Yeah.
complicit. Right.
As far as Beltran is concerned, listen, I understand the reason he is in there is because he is one of the best switch hitters in baseball's history.
That's right.
Okay, and that's
And
why he's in
playoffs,
there.
especially. My
As
goodness.
far as now, you and I don't think we've done a show talking much about the Hall of Fame. I
Mm-mm,
am an
we should.
extremely small Hall guy.
Right. You have told me that before.
Yes, I am not let everybody in, anybody
Mhm.
in. I look at the Hall of Fame as you are the 1% of the one percenters.
Hmm.
Okay. And, it's not any kind of negative against, the type of player you were or something, but
Mhm.
this is just my opinion. Um, Numbers wise, I don't think Carlos should be a Hall of Famer.
Mhm.
Okay. Now you put in the switch hitting thing. Okay. Now you're comparing apples to apples
Right.
and he gets in. But
And also the
overall,
postseason numbers, I think, helped him a
well,
lot too
even the
because he was good in the
postseason, the
postseason.
way and this may be the deciding factor in him getting into the Hall of Fame. Again, and this is just my
Mhm.
opinion,
Yeah.
that the postseason can't put you in the Hall of Fame,
Right.
but it can help
Yeah.
because that's not a part of baseball that everyone gets to be a part of.
Of
You know,
course.
Don Mattingly never played in the postseason or played
That's
1 year.
insane.
You know, so why is it a slam towards him? Because he played on a team that can never make it.
Right.
When he was the best player doing everything that he could to put the team
Right.
in the postseason.
Right.
So, you know, as far as the overall numbers, I think he comes up short. But when you put you put the idea of him being a switch hitter,
Mhm.
okay, I understand it. Now, the other one was uh, Andrew Jones.
Right.
Now, Andrew Jones is the center field version of Ozzie Smith.
Right.
If you
Just
went just on his offensive prowess, Ozzie Smith was a average player.
Yep.
Um, you put all the Gold Gloves and spectacular plays. Now all of a sudden that put him in the Hall of
Backflips.
Fame, and I think that is why Andrew Jones is in the
Yeah.
10 Gold Gloves. The way he played center field, you
Incredible
know.
center
I
fielder.
heard a story. I heard a story of the late great Frank Robinson, who I played for right at the end of his managerial
Mm.
career with the Washington Nationals,
Wow, cool.
was asked a question. Now you got to remember, Frank goes all the way back to almost all the great,
Mhm.
uh, you know, players of yesteryear, going back
Sure.
into the '70s, and I'm sure he may even go back to the
I think
'60s.
it
I'm
was
not
late
exactly sure.
60s when he
Yeah,
started. Yeah, so yeah.
he was asked, "Who is the best center fielder you ever played with or saw?" And without hesitation, he said, 1A is Andrew Jones. This is giving me chills just saying this.
Mm.
1A was Andrew Jones. 1B was Willie Mays.
That is incredible.
That he
Considering
actually
how
put Andrew Jones above Willie Mays.
Yeah, well, Andrew Jones, for those who are too young to have watched him or whatever, of course, he was a thorn in the Astros side, because he played for the Braves, but that guy was like he was like a black hole in center field.
He
Like
was.
a ball could not escape his gravitational pull in the outfield, and the plays that he made and the physicality that he played with in the
Yeah.
outfield was just incredible, and
Here's some
yeah,
stuff on
drive you
Andrew
nuts, but
Jones. I was on my other podcast, Back to the
Mhm.
Bullpen. You see I'm wearing the shirt today.
Yeah, I see it. Little
Little
plug, shout out.
little we were talking about this, and there were some other great center fielders. The one we talked about was um, Torrey,
Oh, yeah.
center fielder for for the Twins.
Right.
And you know, Torrey was known for playing great defense and robbing home runs.
Mhm.
Well, he played a very, very deep center field.
Mhm.
So he was back there to jump off the baggie, and he had some spectacular
Sure.
catches. You know, you could probably YouTube it and see some of them. Andrew Jones was the exact opposite. He played like right behind second base. And that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but not much. He played extremely shallow. The problem is you still couldn't get the ball over his head.
Right.
You know, you had to hit the ball out of the ballpark, and Andrew had
The
just he
speed.
was a highlight reel seemingly
Yeah.
every night, diving and always making the play. You never
Yeah.
saw the ball just tick off of his glove, and he
Right.
ends up winning 10 straight Gold Gloves in center
Incredible.
field. That's what put him in the Hall of Fame.
And also, by the way, that dude was stout. It wasn't like he was some
Oh, he's a
long,
big dude.
lanky
He
he
was a
was a
big dude.
big dude.
Also
Like,
came up at 19 years old.
I know you think about those guys, and you typically think like the center fielders, you think of that long, lean, almost like wide receivers in
Right.
football. Andrew Jones was not that. He was
No,
a
he was
big,
well,
strong
especially
dude.
I mean, at 19, he was a little thin, but
Yeah.
once he started developing, he got into
Oh,
his mid-20s, he started filling out. But dude, he could fly, he got great
yeah.
jumps, he had a great arm. He hit a bunch of home runs.
He did.
And there lies his Hall of Fame career.
I say, look, if you've never seen him, go look him up. His name is spelled differently, so you might need to Google it. But go look him up on YouTube. Go look at some of his highlights because he's a guy that I don't think enough people talk about. And this is coming from someone who hated
Torrey Hunter, my
Torrey Hunter.
goodness.
There
I
you go.
got the Torrey.
There you go. You got it. And
I wasn't
listen,
gonna sleep tonight.
as an Astros fan, that's a guy I hated to see because I knew just how good he was.
Yeah.
The Braves were just a nightmare for the Astros, but he was one of those guys that like I hated Chipper Jones, right? I did not like Chipper Jones. I loved Andrew Jones. right?
Yeah.
Because I thought he was such a spectacular player.
Well, in such a different personality. I actually have had some time now that we're both retired to
Mhm.
hang out with him. We did a home run. There was a home run derby that was down in Sugarland.
Oh, cool.
We hung. He didn't hit. I didn't do anything either. So we were just kind of hanging out, talking. Great, great, great guy. And a lot of people remember him at the end of his career with the Yankees, where it was every swing was coming out of his shoes, trying to
Yeah.
hit home runs. But if you look what he did, especially in those Braves years, he played 11 years for the Braves.
Mhm.
He could actually freaking hit.
Oh, yeah.
He could. It
Oh,
wasn't just about the
he
home
could smoke
runs.
the ball for
Yeah,
sure.
so he wasn't just a one-sided player. He could do both, but his defense
Mm.
uh, it is among the best, if not the best, in Major League history.
Just incredible. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. I hope everyone is protecting their pets and their plants and such this
Yes.
weekend. I mean,
Stay warm, be
stay
safe,
stay warm.
stay inside
Because
if you can.
yeah, stay inside. Well, you're up north too, further north, so you're really
Yeah,
in the
I'm up
you're
in
up there.
Montgomery. I'm up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's where my mom is. I've told my mom, I'm like, just stay inside.
yeah,
You don't need to go
yeah.
anywhere. It's fine. We'll all
It's
just
all about it's all about where the ice line is.
That's right. And hey,
We're
listen,
yeah,
tomorrow's the football champion. It's the AFC and NFC
right.
championship games. So there's something to do. So you
There
sit
you
around.
go.
I'm making chicken and dumplings today, so y'all can all be
Yeah, you
jealous of
are.
that.
By the way, I did not get an invitation for chicken and dumplings.
Hey,
Just to let people know.
don't drive through the ice, Mike. Save yourself. I'll send you some.
Just
I'll
save me some.
DoorDash it to you.
That's right.
All right.
That's right. It's
Thanks
in the
everybody for
mail. It's in
joining
the
us.
mail.
Exactly. We'll talk to y'all next time. Go Astros.
Adios.